Hello, my name is Alyssa Beard, and you're watching a 222 Productions review.
The ANW editors are idiots. Alright, well now that I got your attention, we'll get to that later on in this review. But for now, we're going to start with Stage 2 of our ANW Season 13 season finale review. I got a lot to say, and to be perfectly honest, in a vacuum, this was actually a good episode. But in terms of what it represented for the entire season, I got some issues, and we'll get to that in a minute. So just a refresher, for Stage 2, the obstacles were the striding steps, the double salmon ladder, V formation, hammer drop, epic salmon ladder, oh wow, it's not epic, I wrote epic salmon ladder, that's not it, epic air surfer, and falling shelves at 3:30. One thing that I liked about this stage is that the fails were very evenly spread out. You know, I'll just get through the actual stats itself. We've had 3 fails on the striding steps, 5 fails on the double salmon ladder, 1 person failed V formation, 5 on hammer drop, 5 on epic air surfer, and 6 on the falling shelves. As far as the fails are concerned, that's a pretty even spread. So, honestly, I can't fault the stage for that. You know, usually you have most people kind of just failing the same obstacle, which was, you know, usually obstacle 5 of Wingnut Alley. But in this case, that wasn't the case, and I appreciate that. In hindsight, maybe I should have picked a teenager to do the best this season with all the promotion that they were doing, but it's hard to tell with A&W and the way they edit. We'll get more on that in a little bit, but in the beginning of this episode, they were really focusing on the teenagers again this season, and it made me think maybe my prediction for Jake Murray was wrong, but I was still holding out hope. I gotta believe. I must believe. So they start with Isaiah Thomas, and they use this to really kind of, they use this profile piece to really just highlight the teenagers. 35 of the 400 competitors for the season, I believe they said, were teenagers, and now we're down to 7 of the last 19 in this episode. So he had a little bit of issue on the double salmon ladder, but he was able to save time by skipping the first and third V of V formation, like many people did. And he was able to do the drop part of the hammer drop with only his arms, no legs. So that was very impressive. But unfortunately, he did not bridge the gap on the first gap of the epic air surfer. In the beginning, the cradle, you can kind of you can shimmy your way across, but he didn't do that, and he wasn't able to bridge the gap, so he was eliminated at that point. And then they showcased Adam Rail. They mentioned that he was one of the favorites, and his profile was that he travels and lives with Sean Bryan. Stage 3 recap. This was a very long profile, I noted. He almost lost the salmon ladder transitioning to it from the striding steps. And he, of course, skipped Vs 1 to 3, although he was a little close on V4 of the V formation. And then I will say, he did a really good job on hammer drop, the transition to climbing on top. I appreciate the urgency. So after resting, he decided to start the falling shelves with 30 seconds left, and he made it to the last shelf, but he unfortunately missed the reverse grab. He fell fast. I don't know what it was, but just the way he fell very quickly, and it looked like his left hand missed, so unfortunately he was out too. And then Sean Bryan got fast forward, also failed the reverse grab, had about 25 seconds left on the clock, so he had plenty of time, but couldn't stick the landing. One thing I will say about the falling shelves as the last obstacle is that they kind of look like walls, kind of like, you know, the idea of like turning walls sort of thing, so at least there's sort of that dimension of the last obstacle that I can appreciate. You know, I do wish that Stage 2 was more original obstacles and less like, you know, recycled obstacles. You know, I don't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem if they like used Epic Walk the Plank again. I know that's technically reused obstacle, but striding steps as a stage 2 start is just weird. I mean, it's fine as it is, but in context of like stage 2 in history, it's weird. I just like it when they start on top, you know? It's what made stage 2 unique. Anyway, next up, they showcased Enzo Di Fiore Wilson, and they really wanted to showcase the versatility of his achievements. And he's a real overachiever. And they highlighted that he started a YouTube channel at 11. As someone who has a YouTube channel, I just want to state it for the record, starting a YouTube channel isn't an achievement. Anyone can make a YouTube channel. No offense to Enzo, because I know he has at least watched some of these videos. Because he's commented on them. But I will say, YouTube Service says that you have to be 13 to make an account, so I hope you had your parents' permission to make that account, young Enzo. Just playing. You have more subscribers to me. I must beat you. Again, just kidding, just playing along. Now, in all seriousness, he's got some neat Ninja Warrior videos on his channel, so good job, Enzo. But unfortunately, he fell on the V formation. He fell on the third V. He didn't skip any of them, which was surprising. But when he got to the third V, his hands were too close, and he lost balance and he fell. And so in fast forwards, Tyler Yamaguchi failed the hammer drop. He couldn't get a good wrap because he is one of the shorter competitors. It seems like maybe the strategy was to grab one side, one of the grips, and just kind of like really squeeze with the other appendages. Unfortunately, hammer drop is definitely an obstacle where his height is a disadvantage. Sadly. And then Brian Burkhart attempted the course, but failed on the double salmon ladder. But the good news is that he had a safety pass, so he used it. And we'll get to see how he did later in the episode. And then they showed Austin Gray, and he got a girlfriend. That was it. Bizarrely, he had trouble getting up the first half of V formation, which I don't think anyone else on stage 2 who made it to the obstacle had that issue. It was very weird. Very weird. But he made good time. Saved a lot of time. He had 1:10 left at the falling shells when he got there. And he cleared with 15.63 seconds left. A little surprising because they fast-forwarded him a few times. I believe both stage 1 and the qualifiers he was skipped on. Now, I understand why they would maybe fast-forward his qualifier run. He did fail that course, as the commentators pointed out. I don't remember if they pointed out during the stage 2 or stage 3 run. Doesn't matter. They pointed it out at some point. But they really should have showed his stage 1 run, you know? Really kind of like just hype. It's so weird because, like, I guess slight spoilers, but like Austin Gray once again takes second place, and like between last season and this season, they really aren't giving the man his due. But there is one person who's gotten, I feel, less due than Austin has. Actually, 2 people. It's so weird. I would say, of the spoilers, 4 people who made it to stage 3, that there were 2 people who definitely got less featured than Austin was prior to this episode, in my humble opinion. And it also means that Austin didn't need the safety pass. And I hope that you feel extremely guilty about taking a safety pass from Jake Murray, Austin. Extremely guilty. How dare you? Selfish. I'm joking. Not like you could have known. Anyway, Jonathan Gabout in Fast Forward, he failed, I guess he failed hammer drop. I think I accidentally wrote V formation, but he failed hammer drop. I guess it says here banged on jump, so if I remember correctly, on the jump he hit the hammer a little too hard, so that sucked for him. And then they showed Josiah Papel, but they showed him mid-run, bizarrely, in the middle of the Epic Air Surfer, which is weird. Okay. And so they really didn't get to see much of his run. And unfortunately, he fell the blind grab section of the falling shelves. And Josiah, if you're watching this, man, you're really good. I know you have what it takes to go even further next season. Keep at it, man, and you'll go far. I trust it. Then they had Joe Moravsky did a little stage 1 recap. And then my favorite type of profile piece, the I met a young fan and here's their story type of profile that has nothing to do with the competitor. I will say that one of the things that they mentioned about Joe's profile that was nice was that because he won the Power Tower during the qualifiers round last season, the winners got to choose which charity got money donated to them from the producers, and he chose the charity, the foundation that was helping Matt with his hospital visit and everything that he was going for, and that's really nice. Although I do find it weird that we had to wait till the season finale of season 13 to find out that in season 12 competitors could pick money to give to their favorite charity for winning the Power Tower. That I feel like they should have mentioned back in season 12 in order to make all the competitors look good instead of like just Joe. And, it's not Joe's fault, but just like the editing would have been nice if you tell us these things. It's so weird how like they don't tell us like the bonus cash prizes that happen on the show. I don't know if they still do it. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But in the qualifier and semifinal rounds in the past, the top, I believe, 3 times get cash prizes. And in some seasons, even just making it to the semifinals got you a cash prize. But they never mention it on TV, so you would never know. It's weird. Anyway, unfortunately, this profile piece was very long. And I should have realized that this meant bad things for Joe. He unfortunately failed the first obstacle of stage 2, the striding steps. He leaned to the right and couldn't get a good grip on the rope. And in an interview with Zuri, Joe simply said that he was feeling frustrated. And I guess between stage 1 and stage 2, because, look, he knows that he didn't, obviously hindsight being 2020, he didn't need to go for the high road on stage 1. But he went for it, it cost him his safety pass, and now on stage 2, when he could have used the safety pass, he didn't get to use it, and that is probably really ate at him. And so hopefully next season he'll do even better. Hopefully he won't have food poisoning. And we'll see how Joe does. I think Joe's one of those people who really wants to win. I'm sure most people on the show really want to win, but I think Joe really wants to win. That's my impression that I've gotten from him. In more fast forwards, Matt Bradley unfortunately slipped off the hammer drop and failed. Isaiah Wakeham fell off the first rack of the double salmon ladder, and Ryan Meeks lost his grip on the Epic Air Surfer and failed there. So next up was Kyle Soderman, who has not been featured at all this season. And now they're finally showing his run. He got fast forward all 3 runs before stage 2. So qualifier, semifinal, stage 1. He got fast forward all 3 times, despite the fact he had the buzzer all 3 times, which is really impressive. And the profile piece was a little funny because in the beginning, I swear they just reused the footage from his Ultimate Beastmaster profile piece, even though those are 2 different shows run by different companies. Anyway, they mentioned that he's 175 pounds, making him one of the heavier competitors. Ah, yes, the days were to be 175 again. How I long for thee. Self-deprecating humor, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, Kyle was looking good on the course, like he has done all season, or at least I assume he's done all season. You can only see the highlights of his runs. He had 50 seconds at this when he got to the falling shelves. He decided to start with 25 seconds left, and when he grabbed the final reverse grab and landed that grab, he had a huge smile on his face, which allowed him to jump off, dismount, run, and hit the buzzer with 6.16 seconds left on the clock. And so Kyle Soderman makes it to stage 3. And I just wish that he got featured more. You know? Would have been nice to... I feel like the general audience would have connected to Kyle clearing stage 2 more had they shown him throughout the season. You know what I mean? Editing is so weird, and that's why I kind of say that the editors suck, especially this season. In more fast forwards, Mike Salinzi unfortunately failed the reverse grab of the falling shelves, and Kai Beckstrand slid down the rope for the strutting steps, so he failed the first obstacle. Sadly, one of my picks to make it to stage 3 didn't make it to stage 3. Oh well. Well, so was Joe was one of my picks to stage 3 also. You know, I will say, I predicted 5 people were going to reach stage 3 and 4 people made it. So, you know what? I'm going to take that as a win. That's pretty darn close, you know? So then they showed Jake Murray, who they labeled as one of the favorites. And they used this to... they combined his profile with Kaden, Lebsack, and showed the two of them training, and I made sure to write down this quote that Jake said, where he said, "Ninja is a ninja if you're not having a good time." Thank you. I feel like too many people don't take Ninja too seriously, or they forget that Ninja is supposed to be fun. And this is a whole different rant for a different video, but it's not just the competitors, but also like when you're holding an event, you got to make sure the event itself is fun. Because at the end of the day, even if you're trying to make Ninja a sport, the sport needs to be fun by definition. Both for the competitors and for the audience. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Jake, as I mentioned before, was currently on a streak of 6 courses in the row of having the fastest clear. And he was on pace to potentially make it 7 in a row. He skipped V's 1 and 3 on V formation. He looked focused at this point throughout the entire stage. I honestly thought we were about to see another stage 2 clear. And then he fell on the reverse grab section of the falling shelves. He got to the falling shelves with a minute 30 left. And it's like, he could have done it. But his left hand slipped, you know, couldn't hold on. And I was so angry at this. I have my notebook here when I'm watching the episodes writing note. I actually threw my notebook in anger because I was so heartbroken at Jake falling. This was by far the fail that got to me the most all season. Just devastated. I want Jake to do well so badly. I want him to win so badly. The fact he's never made it to stage 3 is a tragedy, quite frankly. Because I know he can kill it in stage 3. And this honestly scared me a little, because he said in his interview with Zuri that he's considering stepping aside. Please, Jake, please. Look, Jake, I don't know if you watch these videos. I'm telling you this right now. Please do not retire. I believe in you so much that I know you have what it takes to become the next American Ninja Warrior champion. 1 or 2 more years, I know you got this. Come on. I believe in you, Jake. I believe in you. Please don't give up. Do it for me. If you're not going to do it for you, do it for me. Just wanted to see you do well. Anyway, then in the final fast forward for stage 2, actually for the entire season, poor Brian Burkhart ran stage 2 twice, got fast forward both times. Unfortunately, he slid off of the epic air surfer at the end of the rack trying to dismount. And so he failed stage 2 twice and does not move on to stage 3. Then the final 2 runs of stage 2, they showed Jessie Labreck did a recap of her stage 1 run, but unfortunately she missed the top of the first rack of the double salmon ladder. And she was very sad. She was being consoled by Chris DeGangi, her fiance, and hopefully very soon husband. And she told him, I could have done so much better. And you can really tell that, even though, yes, this was the best season she's ever had, great performance by her, you can tell she wanted more. And honestly, you should want more. If you're competing in American Ninja Warrior and you're not trying to go as far as you possibly can and possibly even further, then, why are you even doing the show? So I appreciate that mindset from Jessie. And I know she can do it again. She can reach stage 2 again. She can go further in stage 2. And there was USA versus the World where she beat the whole course, but not in a slower time limit than what would be the normal time limit. But I know that she can do it, so just needs to pick up the pace, and I think she can clear stage 2, but we'll have to wait and see if that happens in the future. And then the final run, which confused me, was Kaden Lebsack. Matt Eisman said that he lived up to the hype. Has he? And that he looked dominant all season. He skipped the second Via V formation, only the second one, and he ended up clearing with 28.56 seconds left. Youngest to clear stage 2 ever, and the fastest of the season for stage 2, which means he gets to go last. So, just to let everyone know, for stages 2 and 3, the run order is dictated by your clear times in the previous stage. Actually, and for the final it counts for the final stage also. But they don't like to acknowledge it, So in stage 2, Jake was probably the last person to run if they stuck to the strict run order like they did in the past. I don't know where Brian would land when it comes to the safety pass stuff. I don't know, but they don't like to acknowledge it unless they want to acknowledge it. In stage 3, only 4 people, they want to acknowledge it. So they chose to finally acknowledge that the run order for stage 3 will be based on the clear times for stage 2. So the 4 people who cleared stage 2, just to recap, from fastest to slowest, was Kaden Lebsack, Austin Gray, Kyle Soderman, and Vance Walker. Which means, for stage 3, Vance Walker was up first. But let's go over this course first and foremost. So, obstacle 1, we stay with grip and tip, just like we did last time we saw stage 3. Funny name, still, but it's a good first obstacle. I don't mind it. And then we had the stalactites, which is, it's kind of like a variation of the key lock hang, in a way. But you got these hanging platforms, these hanging holes that you're holding onto these hooks, these straight up hooks with balls at the end. You got to put them through the slots and make your way across. But the catch is that, these things, they can rock. So if you're not careful, you might knock something out of the way. You might accidentally tilt yourself and slip out. So you got to be careful. It's definitely an obstacle where you can fall early on the course if you're not careful. And I think it would have been even more dangerous if they put it later in the course, but we'll never know. And then is Up for Grabs, which we haven't seen all season. Last time we saw, I believe, was season 11. I don't remember in season 12. But this version of Up for Grabs was like easier than the semifinal version of Up for Grabs. It was kind of a waste of a spot. Like, Up for Grabs is not a bad obstacle, but because it was so close and in that point of the stage, it didn't work. Like, honestly, I think Up for Grabs would be better as a stage 2 obstacle. So yeah, it's not a bad obstacle, just not really a stage 3 obstacle in my opinion. And then once again, the ultimate cliffhanger. Was it any different from ANW 11? I don't know. I didn't go back and navigate it. It didn't look like as hard as past versions. And then once again, Pipe Dream, which included the weird starting platform thing that you have to jump to. And then a new obstacle called Eyeglass Alley, which is, so basically, you got a bar with 2 circular rings on the side, and you have to navigate this bar through a series of hooks that can rotate also, which the rotate is good because it helps you navigate through this maze. But it's basically, it's like, you really gotta maneuver your... It's kind of like, you're almost kind of like using the motion that, like, the walking stick used in the, if you remember the walking stick, but slightly different. I like the obstacle. Honestly, my only concern is, like, what happens if, like, that thing falls off when you fall? Like, I was afraid that thing might end up landing on someone. I really wish there was, like, a safety wire in the middle there. But anyway, after you move a few times through the hooks, you then grab a second set of eyeglasses and then do a simple bar hop from one set of hooks to another. Which apparently that second bar didn't exist originally, but they put it out there because they realized that if it wasn't there, the obstacle would be a little too hard. And then they ended it all up with the flying bar. And one thing I will say is that having Epic Air Surfer and the flying bar in Vegas, it's kind of weird because they're very similar obstacles. They are different, but they're still similar in concept, if you get what I'm saying. I really think that Flying Bar, they gotta replace Flying Bar, And something else needs to be the final obstacle, Stage 3 in ANW. Flying Bar, honestly, I think Flying Bar actually works better at the beginning of the course, like what Sasuke does. But they need something better at the end. I'm not saying, like, oh, they need a pipe slider, but something, Like a steps, honestly, like the step slider, I think, is a good alteration. But I would just like to see something else, personally. Because it's kind of more of a victory lap at this point. So anyway, we started Stage 3. They showed competitors in the audience, cheering everyone on. Joe Moravsky looking very sad on the sidelines. That's what I noticed. They mentioned that Vance Walker is 5'5", which... And this is the first time that they mentioned the last man standing rule, basically stating that if no one beats Stage 3, whoever goes the furthest, the fastest, will get $100,000. And one thing I will appreciate with the editing is that they really emphasized the last man standing rule until it became no longer needed. With the pulling the clock on the screen and everything like that, I appreciate that they made you think that we might only have a $100,000 winner with no one reaching the final stage. So, he was looking good in the beginning. He looked good on grip and tip, but he got a little hung up on stalactites. With he slipped up trying to do a transfer, so he had to hold on and just kind of rotate and wait, eventually getting in. He looked great on the ultimate cliffhanger. No heart, no problem with that. He had a little bit of difficulty transferring on the drops for Pipe Dream, and he made it deep into Eyeglass Alley, but unfortunately he slipped off towards the end and he fell on obstacle number 6 of 7. So, then we go to Kyle Soderman. He did well early on. They mentioned, once again, he is the heaviest of the competitors. Unfortunately, when getting to the highest ledge of the Ultimate Cliffhanger, he slipped, couldn't reach it, and fell. So he fell the Ultimate Cliffhanger, and he will not be the last man standing. Then they showed Austin Gray. Again, had a great recovery on the stalactites, similar to what happened with Vance. They started showing the clock on this one, really kind of emphasizing the 100,000 aspect of it. Had a lot of issue on the Pipe Dream platform because he didn't jump as high as you're supposed to get up there. So you had to tilt it, you had to climb up it, retilt it, but he was able to get through the Pipe Dream faster than Vance did. Vance was, because of his height, had a little more difficulty getting through that obstacle the way that I guess he wanted to originally. So he actually beat Vance to the Eyeglass Alley, which automatically put him in position to win the $100,000. Unfortunately, Austin just had a very hard time hooking the eyeglass like halfway through the obstacle, and so as a result, he ended up using up just a lot of energy, and he eventually his grip gave out, and he fell on the obstacle. But he was able to sit pretty for the 100,000. All he had to do was wait for Kaden. Now, I will say, before this stage started, I had this thought that I told people that based on the editing for the season, Vance is the only person winning at least 100,000 that makes sense. Cause Kyle Soderman, all of a sudden him winning the 100,000 didn't make sense. Kaden Lebsack didn't really make sense based on the editing. Austin Gray makes sense a little bit, but Vance was the only one who had all his runs showed this season, who made it to stage 3. They hyped Vance up so much. They made you perhaps think that he was going to be go further than anyone else and be the winner. But he's already out at this point with one person left. So, what? At this point, with Austin, basically coming down to Austin versus Kaden, I was so confused. Because I'm just like, how is Vance not the person who went the furthest at this point? And then I saw the clock. And I made the mistake of looking at the clock. And I saw there were still 20 minutes left. It was like, 9:40 at the start of Kaden's run. And I looked at that and I said, oh my god, Kaden is about to beat stage 3. And so, I will say, Kaden, he looked great on the course. He looked confident the entire time. He beat Eyeglass Alley, so as soon as he beat Eyeglass Alley, they took the timer off the screen because it doesn't matter anymore. He beat Austin. They actually showed Austin with his girlfriend, kind of like seeing if he was about to win $100,000. And Kaden had this great moment when he got to the last cradle of the flying bar. He had this look on his face. It was like, I can do this. I can do this. And he cleared. Holy crap, he cleared stage 3. And this is where my problem with the editing for this season happened. The last time Kaden got featured on the show was episode 2. All the way back, that aired on June 7th. This was the season finale, which was episode 5, 9, plus 3 is 12. Episode 12. It's been 10 episodes since he's been featured, and it aired on September 13th. July, August, September. It's been over 3 months since we've seen Kaden. Now, I know Kaden's good from other competitions. People tell me that I should be giving Kaden more credit than I have in the past. And I understand that. I know he's good. I just don't have the connection to him that I do with other competitors. I know he's good. But because of how he was featured, you could have given me like 18 guesses of the 19 people remaining of who I thought was going to be the last man standing. And Kaden probably would have been towards the bottom. Like, honestly, just based on the edit. It doesn't make any sense. Because, like, simply put, ANW wants to make the stars that they want to make. They don't want to make the stars that actually do well, necessarily. Because, like, Kaden should have gone featured all season long. He should have. They should have at least shown his runs in full all 4 courses before stage 3. But they didn't. They showed 1 of the 4. Well, okay, technically 2. But they skipped. The problem is, the second one they showed was the season finale, and so the last time we saw him was episode 2, and he was barely even mentioned. You go back to, like, those montages of stuff, I don't remember. I have no memory of him being featured, even, like, you know, episode previews or at the beginning of episodes. He's just kind of there. They just sort of in passing mention him at the end of stage 1, at the end of the semifinals. So the fact that, like, he's the one who made it to the final stage, and the only person who made it to the final stage, is absurd. Not because of him, but because of how they presented him. It's stupid the way that they handled the editing for this season. Not to mention, like, one of the other 4 people who made it to stage 3 was Kyle Soderman, who got even less airtime than Kaden. Because he never got featured until the season finale. They fast-forwarded all his runs prior to this episode. Which, again, is stupid. Like, that's the best way to say it. The editing this season is stupid. I've complained about the editing a bunch. About how they edit like they don't have enough footage, but they actually have a surplus of footage. And this just exemplifies that issue that I have with ANW more than anything else. The fact that your first place finisher got overshadowed in the editing by the guy who took 4th place. Vance was edited to make it look like he was going to win it all. And he did really well. He made it to stage 3, but 3 people did better than him. And all 3 people who did better... Actually, that's not true. 3 other people made it to stage 3, 2 of which did better than him. So, of those 3 people, they all got less airtime than Vance, just in terms of number of runs shown. They should have had all their runs shown. You know, I can understand skipping Austin Gray's qualifier. And here's the thing. They don't have the excuse they don't have the Jeff Britton excuse this time, because Vegas was filmed before any of these episodes aired. They could have edited Kaden's semifinal run to be shown. They could have edited Kaden's stage 1 run to be shown in full. That's the key thing. Like, yeah, he got fast forward. Ooh, big whoop. He wasn't shown in full, and that's the big deal. You know, this season, reality shows, they're supposed to allow you to get to know the competitors and so you feel a connection with the winner. How can you feel a connection with Kaden when you go 10 episodes, 9 episodes without mentioning the guy, and all of a sudden you expect us to be like, oh, hey, we're so happy for him. And it's like, yeah, we are happy for him, but you don't get that connection. You know, whereas if Vance Walker was the one who made it to the final stage, a lot of people would have had that connection because they featured him all season. And also, like, God, guys, put Austin Gray on TV more. How many times does he have to get second place in order to have all his runs shown? You know, again, Kyle Soderman. Why the hell are you not featuring Kyle Soderman? He made it to stage 3. It's ridiculous. It's completely, the editing is ridiculous. That's the best way to put it. It annoyed me so much. My mouth was agape when he cleared stage 3. I have never been more confused at a stage 3 clear than I was this season watching Kaden Lebsack. Again, I want to reiterate, it has nothing to do with Kaden as a person. It has everything to do with Kaden, the competitor who was featured on American Ninja Warrior, and how they edited around him. It's not his fault, but I was confused because of ANW. It's so bizarre. But hey, you know what? I'm happy for him. He did well, made the final stage. His parents were celebrating him at the finish line of stage 3. So, moving on to the final stage, and it's still a freaking rope climb. Why is it still just a rope climb? Let me ask you that. Why is it still just a rope climb? I don't know. And you know what's worse? It's actually shorter than it was in ANW 11. Yeah, ANW 11, which had a clear, was 80 feet tall. This one, 75. The hell? Also, fun fact, final stage was filmed a full day after stage 3, because the final stage wasn't ready yet when that day. I don't know if they didn't think that anyone was going to clear stage 3, because like I do feel like stage 3 and to a lesser extent stage 2, honestly, like between 2 and 3, I don't think this was a Vegas designed to not have a winner. Stage 3 was challenging, but it wasn't like stupid difficult. You know, I do feel like it was designed to potentially have someone clear. I will say that ANW this year did a lot better in balancing their difficulty for the Vegas courses, and I appreciate that. Anyway, important thing that you should know is that they do help the competitors climb the rope when they're climbing it, because like they're pulling on the harness so hard that like it does help you climb. It does help the competitors climb themselves up. You know, this has been mentioned by people who have been on stage, the final stage before, including one person who beat the whole thing. Not that one. The first one. And unfortunately, like, you know, I'll just say I'll just say it. Kaden's technique was not very good. He's made fun of himself on Instagram for how poor his technique was, but he went all arms, and you just can't do that. You got to use your feet also. And he tired himself out. He ended up failing around the 68-foot mark, which kind of sounds impressive, but like again, they are helping them up. Yeah, making it a little bit easier for them on the climb. The final stage needs to change. I get a feeling that they're going to at least stick with just a rope climb until we have another winner. Please, for the love of God, let us have a winner next season so we can get rid of this frickin' final stage and finally have something different besides the rope climb. It's absurd that, like, for all the complicated obstacles that ANW makes over the years, they still maintain with just having the simplest final stage. Anyway, one thing that I will say is that I've been waiting for a season of American Ninja Warrior where we have someone reach the final stage and not clear it. And that's it. The season ends at the final stage, but failing the final stage. And it's taken 13 seasons, but it finally happened. You can say technically 12 because last year was, you know, there was no Midoriyama. But yeah, I think the average ANW audience needs to see someone fail the final stage and just have it end at the final stage. It's nice that way. I will say, this episode as a whole, like I said, it was a good episode. It was just weird for the season. The season as a whole, it was almost kind of like a tale of two shows, in that there was either episodes that I really enjoyed or really hated. It was very polar throughout the season. If you go back to my reviews, there were some episodes I just didn't care for. I really hated, episodes 1 and 4, where I was really hard on them. This season, I think, really shows their problem with editing. And they need to fix it more than ever. Editing and presentation are the two biggest issues with this show. And, you know, they can try amping up the comedy with having the commentators use props and costumes and, you know, really highlight the teenagers to try to get a younger audience. It's not really working. I think at the end of the day, they just need to make the show more exciting. Stop with the fluff pieces. People don't care about them anymore. I honestly think people don't care about them anymore. Because here's the thing. You can tell me I'm wrong, but I'll just say, yeah, but the ratings are going down. So, if you just keep doing the same thing over and over and nothing's working, maybe I'm not the one who's crazy. I'm just saying. My hope is that ANW changes their presentation. Maybe change the color of the set. Like, I didn't watch ANW Junior, but this new season, the black, white, and red aesthetic that they're going for, I actually really like. I think ANW proper can go with just a big old paint change, Like, you want to go for the Sasuke comparison, every once in a while, they just change the color of the course. Stage 1 has been green, it's been black, it's been red, it's been blue. And they change every once in a while. I think ANW can benefit from just a complete palette swap. It would make it'd make the presentation nice. But that's a conversation for another time. Overall, the season was fine. Vegas was good at the end of the day. When it comes to rating the seasons, it is weighted so that Vegas is worth more than the qualifier and the semifinals. Vegas was actually really enjoyable this season on a personal level. So yeah, definitely it's a thumbs up season, but there was a lot of trudging through the swamp of crap that we had to get through in order to get to Vegas, because not everything in the qualifiers and semis was pleasant, quite frankly. But at the end of the day, I will say it was worth it to get to Vegas. I just wish that the editing in Vegas was better so that I'm not left scratching my head at why someone who barely got any airtime is the last man standing. You would think that would be a no-brainer thing to do, but I guess the ANW editors don't have brains. And on that mean note, thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, because I'll be doing plenty more besides this, and check out some of my past reviews. Later, everyone.